10 years ago, the gray zone appeared all over the world, and a chaotic scenario took over the cities. Countless monsters hide in these places, attacking and dominating humanity in a very harsh way. Without mercy, the beasts cause total destruction wherever they go, defeating people with fierce attacks. Fighter jets and rockets try to fight the threat using all of humanity's super advanced weapons. But all this military effort ended up losing its effectiveness against the giant creatures that invaded the world. Ordinary people turn into stone statues if they stay too long in the dungeons and eventually pass away. Besides that, these areas expand if they aren't cleared in time and could end up covering the entire planet. At that moment, professionals chosen by the gods appeared with powers vastly superior to those of humans. Only archers, mages, or warriors can defeat the beasts that live inside the gray zones. The heroes explored dungeons to get stronger, clearing the gray mist by defeating all enemies. In one part of the modern city, the sound of combat and destruction can be heard through the empty streets of the area. A huge gray wolf needs to be defeated fast to stop the dungeon from growing and taking over everything. During the clash, the young Wang Zhifan is hit in the chest by an energy beam and suffers a heavy injury. Seeing the injured boy, the archer and the mage of the group show a lot of surprise at the fierce attack. Right after, the wild creatures hit head-on by a green strike, being consumed by intense flames. The group celebrates the hard-fought victory against a level 2 monster, and the archer thinks it's good to have used the warrior as bait. The girl asks if the young man didn't make it, and the man replies without caring before they leave that place. In a mysterious space full of water and lights, the boy feels immense pain while trying to stretch his injured hand. Very confused by the situation, the main character slowly opens his eyes and tries to remember what he was doing before. He remembers he was working overtime, wondering how he woke up in the middle of a ruined street. Looking at his own reflection in an energy puddle, the boy notices that his face and body are different. A sudden headache hits the young man, and he starts breaking into a cold sweat while holding his face very tightly. Several memories of dungeons and monsters flood the boy's mind, proving that the memories belong to that body. The main character concludes that he was taken to another world, and now has the class of a combat professional. Frustrated by the memories, he realizes he was used as bait on his very first mission and finds that miserable. Wang Zhifan gets annoyed because other people get incredible powers in other worlds, and he turned into bait. At that moment, the young man's gaze completely changes as he notices the presence of glowing panels in front of him. The boy reads the message congratulating him on activating the free choice reward system after the mission. Surprised by the news, he touches the blue panel, commenting that rewards are usually totally random. An excited smile appears on the boy's face as he understands that he has maximum luck and will be able to get very strong. Without wasting time, he extends his glowing hand and chooses a maximum rarity weapon and excellent armor. The system confirms the acquisition of the Wolf Slayer blade, featuring high defense penetration and a high takedown chance. The wolf leather armor also goes into his inventory, and the young man looks at his new sword with admiration. The warrior states that he got an item on the first try that other people wouldn't get even after 100 attempts. With the high-level gear in his hands, the boy shows a lot of confidence, knowing he will become powerful. After that, the young man walks away from the dungeon portal, reflecting on the danger of that new world. To manage to survive, the main character decides he will have to fight non-stop, honoring his professional role. Looking at the storefront full of signs of a market on the main street, he promises to use the system to be strong. Wang Zhifan waits at a bus stop and notes that, aside from the mist and the monsters, that place is quite normal. Sitting in the bus seat, the young man decides to go home and organize all the information before making a plan. During the vehicle's peaceful ride down the avenue, a gray smoke starts to spread around the road. The bus driver goes into shock and warns the passengers that the vehicle was swallowed by the dangerous mist. Panic takes over the people in the vehicle, and the main character stands up while the passengers cry out for help. Knowing that ordinary people don't make it out of the gray zone, the boy adopts a serious stance to help. Keeping his calm in the midst of the chaos, the young man asks all the people to stay in their seats safely. Right after, the warrior orders the driver to speed up the bus as much as possible to try to leave the danger zone. But suddenly, the young man widens his eyes as he realizes that something very serious is about to hit them. A fierce slashing attack goes right through the bus, splitting the vehicle in half and causing major destruction. The vehicle crashes against a wall and tips over in the middle of the dust, while someone laments that only professionals can fight. Amidst the wreckage and smoke from the crash, a sad voice comments that it's very rare for a hero to arrive to save them. The main character removes the debris from his own body, taking a firm stance to deal with that problem. With a serious face, he tells the scared people he's a combat professional ready to fight. An older man sighs in relief and asks if the noble combatant can hold off the terrible monster. Wang Zhifan smiles confidently, thinking it's the perfect time to test his new battle gear. But the group's hope fades when the warrior calmly announces that he only has level 1 power. Hearing this information, the man is completely paralyzed with a nervous smile on his face. Everyone falls into despair, and a young man with glasses laments that level 1 warriors don't have long-range attacks. Ignoring the people's fear, the young man walks toward the danger, knowing his class is highly looked down upon in that world. A glowing aura begins to outline his body, and the system notifies him that he has entered a combat state. Then, the boy's arm is surrounded by energy rings as he activates his excellent wolf leather armor. The protective suit covers the young man, and he takes a defensive stance, facing the threat with deep concentration. A huge level 2 rhinoceros monster runs toward him, tearing up all the asphalt in a frenzy. Quickly, the warrior summons his Wolf Slayer blade, claiming that his items make him much stronger. Holding the rare weapon, he smiles, revealing that he already has the same strength as a level 3 professional. Without hesitating, the boy jumps very high, going over the fierce creature to start his heavy offensive. The wild beast raises its head, trying to keep up with the opponent's agile movement in the air. Seizing the opening, Wang Jifan points his blade downward and quickly charges at the beast. He reflects that even the most common class can shine by having the reward system and a lot of effort. With an intense look, the combatant promises to become the strongest of all using only his great determination. The warrior dives straight into the monster's gigantic mouth, preparing his devastating attack. The sword, charged with blue energy, goes right through the whole beast in a clean and relentless strike. The crash victims are in shock when they notice the enemy was defeated in a single blow, and they praise the boy. While the group celebrates their rescue, the main character sighs in frustration because the monster didn't drop a single item. After clearing the area, the young man decides to go on his way, leaving the defeated creature behind under everyone's gaze. A short time later, the authorities arrive at the scene, and a woman admires the incredible strength of the professional who saved the area. Wanting to recruit the talent, she walks up to the security tape to ask who the hero of the hour was. The older man informs her that it was just a level 1 warrior, but points out that he has already left the area. Intrigued by this, the lady wonders how someone of such a low level managed to eliminate a superior threat. Later, the scene shifts to a residential building under the light of the setting sun, where the hero finally arrives. He walks through the halls and finds his door painted with large red letters demanding the payment of a debt. A group of suspicious debt collectors was waiting for his arrival, and the leader laughs, accusing the young man of trying to run away. Searching through the previous body owner's memories, Wang Jifan understands that he took on a massive financial burden. The memories show that the previous guy borrowed money to buy a profession and failed. Trying to keep his cool, the main character warns them that there are still 3 days left before the agreed deadline is up. The loan shark's leader grabs the boy's shirt, stating that the amount reaches 5 million and he would never be able to pay it. With a threatening look, the man guarantees he will return to take the house if the money isn't in his hands. The young man walks into his home, sighing heavily, not knowing how he will get that entire amount in such a short time. At that moment, the cell phone on the table lights up, indicating the arrival of a new notification. Looking at the device, the boy accesses a forum where several professionals announce they are buying rare weapons for high prices. A smile appears on the boy's face as he finds out he can sell his dungeon rewards to get money. Very excited, he takes off his coat and guarantees he'll use his choice system to get rich and improve his own life. Sitting on the bed, the warrior reviews the information about regular dungeons, which are used to improve strength. He decides that exploring these regular places is the best option to raise his power and look for more useful gear. Looking at the price chart, he notes that level 1 dungeons only generate elite class items. But the real profit is in rare weapons, which can yield hundreds of thousands in a single sale on the underground market. Lying in the darkroom, he laments the fact that he can only enter a dungeon every 3 days and thinks the schedule is tight. Remembering his recent victorious clash, the young man gains new motivation as he evaluates the absurd strength of his protective suit. With extreme confidence, he concludes that he has more than enough skills to face much greater dangers. He drops the cell phone on the bed after making a very risky decision to pay off his debt right away. Resting peacefully, the warrior promises to raid a higher-level dungeon the next day in search of riches. The next day, the main character looks at a bus stop in front of a large building and decides to check out the level 3 dungeon. The story shows the large city center and explains that the area is very safe due to the professionals who clear the mist. Focusing on an old danger warning sign, it's revealed that dungeons get much worse far away from the urban center. While walking through the gloomy alleys, the boy thinks to himself that the rewards in dangerous places are greater. The warrior approaches a blue portal in the alley, and the system asks if he wants to enter the Lone Bear Cave Level 2. A group of young delinquents recognizes the hero and mockingly invites him to be their team's meat shield. Rejecting the offer, the boy walks straight past the group, stating that he won't make the same mistake of the past to fall again. A young man hood mocks the combatant, saying he has a trash class and advises the young man to become a dishwasher. Laughing a lot, the green-haired girl jokes about the fact that the warrior almost did make it yesterday and wants to act tough. Keeping his silence, the boy walks away from the group while agreeing that the previous owner of the body had terrible luck. However, a look of confidence takes over his face, because now he has the choice system, and luck will always be on his side. Watching the main character leave, the criminal says he's a broke gambler uselessly trying to pay off debts. Upon hearing those mean words, the combatant shoots a very sharp sideways glance at the young people without stopping his walk. Facing the enemies with a slight smile, the hero warns them that the life debt they owe will be very hard to pay. Not understanding anything that was said, the girl breaks into a cold sweat, asking her friends for the real meaning of that dark threat. Walking away, the young man gives off an intense energy, and the cowards figure out that he discovered the truth about the fatal betrayal of the past. With a firm step through the alley, the main character arrives at the glowing blue portal of the Qingping Fortress Level 3 dungeon. Facing the magic barrier, the adventurer watches the system warn him about the high risk of entering a higher level place. Without thinking twice, the warrior states that he needs to overcome that challenge and dives straight into the large dimensional rift. Surrounded by intense blue energy and lightning on his body, the boy descends through a long, dark tunnel toward his final destination. Right after, glowing digital blocks start forming the scenery around the adventure in a mysterious way. The warrior arrives at an ancient Asian village and receives the mission to eliminate all the bandits of the local Qingping fortress. Nearby, the scene shows a group of rough men with swords and threatening features observing the little wooden houses. Starting to stretch his arms, the boy notices that this regular dungeon has totally different rules from the Mist Zone. Remembering the previous host's experiences, he discovers that each dungeon has its own narrative to provide rewards. Behind the hero, a flash of light reveals a group of allies, and he concludes that everyone present has a lot of fighting experience. Holding a revolver with style, a man with an eye patch takes the lead, asking the team to reveal their levels and classes. Quickly, the floating boxes display 2 shooters, an assassin, plus a healer, all possessing level 3 power. The main character thinks the battle formation is wonderful and activates his profile to show everyone he is a level 1 warrior. Upon noticing Wang Jifan's lower rank, the lead shooter and the masked man get annoyed at the boy's reckless foolishness. With her eyes full of anger, the healer yells, accusing the boy of being useless, and tells him not to sink the team's mission. The adventurer gives a slight smile and summons his Wolf Slayer blade, guaranteeing that his items are very powerful. Evaluating the armor and the glowing blade, the veterans are impressed and accept the help of the supposedly rich kid in the group. The young man breaks into a cold sweat, thinking about how that story of having a lot of money is a lie, since his current debt is quite massive. Taking back control, the leader orders the assassin to gather information and places the warrior as the team's front shield. To calm the young combatant down, the shooter amicably pats his shoulder, guaranteeing full support from the team's healer. Very seriously, Wang Jifan brushes the shooter's hand away, warning that he refuses to step into the middle of the enemies to serve as a big target. Recalling the previous host being attacked in combat, the main character reinforces his decision to never play the useless human shield. The rest of the group crosses their arms with a lot of anger at the warrior's attitude, while he insists he prefers to fight from the back. Extremely furious, the leader swears not to give the boy medical assistance during the clash, and the young man accepts dealing with his injuries alone. Suddenly, a loud noise at the wooden gate catches everyone's attention, interrupting the stressed team's heavy argument. A desperate old resident comes running and begs for the great hero's urgent help against the local robbers. The scene shows dozens of enemy warriors armed with heavy axes and rough features attacking the innocent people across the field. Breaking down the fences with sheer force, the outlaws invade the grounds where the powerful team prepares for the imminent combat. Pulling the trigger, the leader shoots at the invaders, while the warrior wonders if using the revolver will bring such an easy victory. But to everyone's great surprise, the invaders manage to deflect the rapid glowing shots using only their swords. Surprised by their incredible defense, the main character realizes that the looters possess a speed identical to the mist monsters. Not backing away from the danger, the experienced leader asks his teammate to cross their fire, blocking any escape route. The tactic works accurately and hits the bandits dead on, causing critical physical damage after several intersecting shots. With his eyes fixed on the defeated opponents, the swordsman coldly analyzes that the outlaw's physical guard is quite weak and flawed. At that moment, one of the bandits jumps from the roof and tries to launch a surprise attack against the team's young healer. The girl panics, begging for help as the looter's huge machete comes down, slicing the air toward her. Showing great agility, the warrior raises his glowing blade and blocks the heavy strike, saving his ally. The intense impact of the weapon sends huge sparks flying everywhere, highlighting the strength of the enemy attack. With a firm movement, the hero pushes his opponent back, making the bandit slide across the courtyard's dirt. The invader grips his weapon's handle in anger and shows a shocked expression upon noticing the warrior's massive resistance. Trying to intimidate the boy, the enemy yells furiously, but the hero keeps his very sharp gaze, preparing his offensive. The swift sword cuts the air relentlessly, and the outlaw's body suffers a critical injury, being taken down on the spot. The eye-patched leader smiles, commenting that rare weapons are amazing because they allow a rookie to defeat big targets. But the battle situation gets more tense when a group with 5 very aggressive outlaws surrounds the young combatant. Showing no fear, the boy guarantees that he has already tested his strength against the enemies, and the quantity doesn't make the slightest difference. Before the warrior could start the fight, the sound of loud long-barrel gunshots echoes throughout the camp. Rapid shots pass millimeters away from the main character's face, almost hitting his eyes and leaving him in extreme shock. Quite confused, he turns his face, trying to understand the reasons those risky shots flew so close to his body. The precise offensive squarely hits the looters surrounding the boy, causing the immediate fall of those opponents. The image shows the 2 shooters and the team's healer with their weapons smoking after firing non-stop at the group. The young man sighs with deep concern upon noticing that his alliance members are putting him in the dangerous path of crossfire. A malicious smile takes over the one-eyed shooter's face, proving that he doesn't care about hurting his teammate. A true golden rain of projectiles charges at the opponents, forcing the boy to defend his own safety. Noticing the wear on his armor, he notes that human shields don't fall to monsters but to their own team. Filled with anger over their great carelessness, the warrior blocks the allied attack by crossing his blade and asks for an explanation. Smiling mockingly, the partner shooter warns that he was only aiming at the enemies and accuses the rookie of supporting the big villains. Rage takes over the hero, who stomps hard, cracking the stones upon realizing that his squad treats innocent lives as disposable. Pointing his hand at the shooter, Wang Zhifen coldly guarantees he will teach the criminals what it's like to be used as bait. The atmosphere in the fortress gets tense as the swordsman promises to pass on the terror of taking the front line to the traitors. Suddenly, an absurd impact drowns out the conversation exactly when a huge metal ball hits the nearby houses. The smoke from the blast slowly fades, revealing the monstrous figure of a giant bandit covered in large scars. The system updates the main mission, ordering the adventurers to eliminate the fortress's big boss to get real victories. Totally terrified, the leader activates glowing focus charms while ordering his alliance to open fire on the great beast. Hundreds of bullets bounce off the brute's steel chest, proving that the strong shots do not hurt that body. The monster's expression shifts into a threatening grimace, showing its total annoyance with that cowardly, retreated team. With a concerned face, the young man reflects that it will be a huge danger to go head-to-head with that monster's impenetrable skin. Having great agility in his legs, the giant refuses to yield and jumps, crushing the dirt, forcing the shooters to run hurriedly. Mid-wild jump, the boss uses heavy chains to charge a crushing blow against the retreated cowards. The weight of the collision shatters the ground, pushing the one-eyed man to his physical limit to avoid that giant threat's fast punch. Very frustrated, the healer scolds the rest of the squad, warning them that their previous shots caused the enemy's fury. The enraged creature ignores the scared one-eyed shooter, who tries to retreat while feeling huge pain from his slashed body. Threatened by relentless fear, the shooter tries to run away while the violent boss keeps stepping on the glowing cracks. Holding his injured area, the leader passes near Wang Zhifan, demanding that he distract the beast so their safety can be guaranteed. Knowing the words were a lie, the boy gets a sinister look, stating in his mind that the traitors would taste terror. The warrior grips his blade, pretending to accept the order, and firmly runs straight into the great danger's aggressive path in that courtyard. Showing huge steadiness, the young man positions his blade to withstand that monster's heavy impact. The friction sends smoke into the sky, forcing the hero to suspect that giant body's high immunity to heavy weapon damage. Keeping a sharp gaze, he concludes that to eliminate that absurd size, he will need to use a much rarer item. Keeping a safe distance, the shooter goes back to screaming fake orders, so the rookie will catch the beast's attention for good. The swordsman confirms the task without complaining, ignoring the colossal beast that readies a massive attack right behind his shoulder. With extreme agility, the main character dodges to the sides, avoiding being crushed by the great creature's fast and destructive punch. The heavy blow destroys the ground, creating glowing cracks and scaring his one-eyed partner, who falls backward in the tense courtyard. The adventurer runs away, and the system panel confirms that the mortal opponent's violent attention has fallen upon him. In the middle of the deadly chase, the main character uses his agility to guide the boss right into the desperate shooter's escape route. The giant boss punches the ground with great force while the hero agilely jumps back so as not to be crushed. With his gaze focused on the boy, the giant enemy charges through the air, wielding his heavy sword against him. At that moment, the young combatant speeds up his pace, running straight toward the scared one-eyed shooter. Desperate, the shooter begs the rookie to stop running away, asking for unity while the huge beast chases them. A destructive impact hits the dirt, throwing the man far away, and he furiously demands that the rookie get away from them. The attraction tactic works, and the system shows that the fierce creature locked its target on the one-eyed man fallen on the ground. The fierce beast crushes the rocky floor, kicking up a large cloud of dust, and the shooter screams in sheer terror. Commenting on the monster's relentless fury, the story shows the cowardly man receiving a crushing blow in the courtyard. The heavy impact destroys the shooter's arm, leaving him trembling on the ground, completely taken over by the fear of impending doom. Ignoring the man's pain, the beast performs a massive spinning move, sending a heavy shockwave through the air of the village. Agonizing on the pavement, the one-eyed man glares at the young warrior with pure hatred, accusing the boy of setting up that trap. Keeping his calm, the hero warns that now they understand the burden of using a warrior as disposable bait. While the monster chases the rest of the group begging for help, the main character walks in the opposite direction, calm. Completely terrified, the healer extends her hand and screams for the destructive beast not to come any closer. Desperate, she activates a level 3 trap scroll to lock the opponent in a cage for 10 seconds. Hearing the activation of that containment item, the warrior looks over his shoulder, quite surprised by that tactic. A glowing purple dome surrounds the giant monster, giving the two girls a precious chance to run away. However, the one-eyed leader also ends up trapped inside the illuminated barrier and bangs on the shield, begging to be freed. But the magical pounding catches the trapped beast's attention, and it slowly turns to face the injured shooter. Breaking into a cold sweat and with a smile of pure panic, the wounded man asks the monster to stay calm during that time. A tear runs down the criminal's face as he finally understands the great gravity of his dire situation. In a split second, a heavy impact marks the entire scene, signaling that the one-eyed leader was totally crushed. Watching the defeat, the young man reflects that he only wanted to scare the team and didn't imagine such a disgusting betrayal. Keeping his mind on the main focus, the warrior concludes that the most important thing now is to focus on eliminating the boss. The healer warns that a rookie could never defeat the beast alone, but the boy guarantees he has already figured out the weakness. Raising his rare blade, the swordsman is confident in victory, knowing he only needs one chance. The system notifies him that the magic barrier will only last 5 more seconds, and the furious beast remains focused on him. Focusing on the monster's chest, the young man deduces that the strong level 3 shots left cracks in the dangerous defense. The glowing prison's countdown reaches 3 seconds, while the immense opponent displays a terrifying feral expression. With 2 seconds left before the shield breaks, the giant creature raises its heavy chains for an attack. At the last second, the adventurer reasons that the dungeon has a safety exit, and he's gonna bet everything. The magical timer runs out, generating a strong wave of purple energy, marking the furious release of the great brute. Without hesitating for a single moment, the brave warrior grips his sword firmly and dashes forward at high speed. The monster hits the dirt, causing an air explosion that throws the 2 fearful girls far away in the camp. But amidst the dust storm, the agile swordsman appears, cutting through the wind right next to the villain's wounded chest. The super sharp blade passes the limit of the tough skin and hits the crack left by the shots with absolute precision. Sliding across the ground, the rookie hero takes a very confident stance while the battle's toll marks his straight weapon. Behind the boy, the immense enemy's body begins turning into blue pixels, confirming the main character's great victory. The system announces the experience gain in his level up to level 2, making the adventurer proud of his action. He notes that even tough skin gives way if the strike is focused exactly on the weak point of the defense. A level 3 dungeon notification flashes in the air, and the young man cracks an innocent smile, waiting for his final prizes. Interrupting the boy's excitement, the long-haired healer approaches nervously, wanting to talk to the hero. Forcing a friendly smile, the traitor tries to get a slice of the items, claiming she helped a lot with the big takedown. Shooting a fierce look, the warrior guarantees that ignoring their cowardice is already the grand prize they'll get. Very frightened by the young man's strong, threatening aura, the woman backs away, calling her friend so they can flee the territory. However, the swordsman raises the glowing metal, stopping the coward's advance, telling the two to wait right there. In absolute panic, the false ally remembers the rules of that world, claiming that foul play leads to immediate imprisonment. Giving a calm laugh, the boy states that he only wished to hear a small thank you for saving everyone. Crying in pure terror from the tension, the fake young woman agrees and whispers a very quick thank you to the master. Right after, the masked girl shakes in her boots, completing the sincere compliments, fearing that the blade will pierce her face. With the sword held firmly in his hands, the warrior watches 2 small glowing blue portals appear on the courtyard floor. The system allows him to choose 3 items, and the boy happily concludes that the higher-level dungeon provided an extra reward. Several skill orbs float around him, showing various information and the drop rarities of each magic. Very excited, the boy points forward and celebrates the unique chance to get maximum rarity magic books. He analyzes the sleeve glow skill, which allows him to train while sleeping and increase his attack very quickly. Right after, the combatant looks at the fast movement technique that promises to increase his speed like a gale. With his hand on his chin, the adventurer smiles, knowing that even as a warrior class, he can still learn this technique. Remembering the tense fight against the giant boss, the hero decides he really needs to improve his dodging speed. The main character chooses the magic spheres and plans to sell the shooter's skills to make a profit of at least 1 million. Surrounded by intense blue energy, the young man guarantees that the high-level magics will pay off his massive debts. Showing a lot of confidence in his eyes, the boy promises to invade the dungeons to collect all the great treasures. A dominating smile takes over his face as he reflects that the new powers could change the entire world. Walking down the street with his cell phone in hand, the young man decides to focus on settling his debts, evaluating the skills prices. He notices the high amounts on the digital market and believes that a good initial price can generate $1 million profit. The cell phone vibrates right then, and the hero is surprised to see that long-range magics are quite popular. Satisfied with the business, the main character immediately accepts a large $1 million purchase offer for the next day. The scene shows the combatant walking down a long deserted alley, planning to test the sleep training at his residence. Soon after, the story focuses on a residential building during nightfall, showing a few lit windows. The young adventurer rests in the comfort of his bed, while a special energy outlines his entire tired body. Closing his eyes peacefully, the system indicates that the training book has been activated, opening the dream world. The hero wakes up in a totally empty and dark environment, finding the place quite curious for lacking any detail. Looking at his own hands, the boy notices that his body feels realistic and his fighting instincts are sharply heightened. Suddenly, the warrior hears a strange noise and turns his face around, startled, looking for the hidden danger. The panel tells him to defeat the enemy while a dark fighter with the same body style approaches in silence. The mysterious shadow lunges forward with a large sword and forces the young combatant to slide across the empty floor to dodge. Holding his blade, the hero defends against a heavy slash, crossing the metal and causing large bright sparks. With an agile body movement, the dark adversary hits the main character's stomach with a very strong punch. Gripping his weapon firmly, the boy shows a big excited smile, stating that the battle is quite fun. Displaying great skill, the adventurer uses the wind to execute a clean cut on the strong enemy's chest. Keeping his gaze highly focused, he understands that he will need to push past his own limits to get strong. At that same instant, the fast shadow restarts the fierce combat and forces the young man to dodge new dangerous strikes. The system issues several repeated missions, and the dark copy surrounds the boy, attacking from multiple sides without stopping. Totally confident and unafraid of the threats, Wang Jifan extends his hand, calling the figures to intense combat. The scene suddenly shifts, showing the city's management-based building with a few officers around a map. An elegant man gives a speech on a large blue screen, reporting the attacks that have happened at the missed points over these months. The leader slams the table in anger, warning that the elite teams were sabotaged several times by a criminal group. A mature officer with glasses keeps a serious posture and asks if there is any defense strategy against the gang. A woman enters the room with a digital device, warning that she got vital information about the hazy zone. The superior boss recalls the great talents fighting beasts in the image and claims that this fact is not news. The investigator shows an enemy's interrogation and reports that the villain's leader didn't foresee the hero's arrival. With a clenched fist and a worried look, the lady assures her superior team that that event is extremely rare. The mature man understands that the new hero can cancel out enemy magic and asks if the young woman can track the talent. Shaken by the heavy responsibility, the woman informs them that she will run a massive search through the city's bus routes. Looking at the young adventurer's blurry image, the lady gains focus and wishes to find that boy very quickly. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to the next morning, where the young main character yawns, feeling the effects of the night training. Walking unhurriedly through the large empty alley, he laments the extreme exhaustion caused by the heavy combat in his long dream. The warrior stops his walk upon hearing the discreet footsteps of a hooded figure and decides to test his new strength. The system panel informs him that the fast movement magics were acquired, improving his old abilities. Evaluating his new physical body scores, the boy celebrates the powerful evolution gained in a single night of sleep. Putting his hand on his face, the boy walks down the empty street, assuming that dealing with H's is worth the newly acquired strength. The boy walks peacefully through a dark alley, unaware that he is being watched by someone. Further ahead, a muscular man with dreadlocks waits, sitting on top of a dumpster. Upon noticing the stranger's presence, the young warrior halts his steps in the alley. The big guy stares at the boy and asks if he is the seller who has the special skill book. Without saying a word, Wang Jifan accesses his inventory and pulls out the glowing book to show the man. The large man eagerly tries to grab the item, warning that he will keep the book while the young man takes the coins. Analyzing the boy's data, the man laughs, seeing that he is only level 2 and says he got very lucky. Right after, the system panel confirms the transfer of coins between the two accounts. Annoyed by the amount, the main character warns that that wasn't the deal and that a lot of money is missing. Letting out an evil laugh, the man draws a large revolver and mocks the youth, calling him a trash warrior. Pointing the gun straight at the boy's head, the trickster orders him to hand over the book once and for all. At that moment, a large explosion hits the city's buildings, showing the boy's hidden fury. With a very quick move, Wang twists the man's arm and warns that he hates being called trash. With a confident smile, the young man states that even being level 2, he can easily defeat a level 4. The main character squeezes the big guy's neck, who cries out in pain and promises never to insult the class again. With that, the brute is dropped to the ground, coughing hard while trying to catch his lost breath. Smiling in a friendly way, the boy says he was kidding and asks the man to pay the rest of the amount. Upon receiving the full money, the main character celebrates the extra fee for emotional damage suffered. The trickster stays kneeling on the ground while the magic book falls, glowing right in front of him. Crying with deep emotion, the big man holds the item and says he can finally challenge a new dungeon. Curious about the information, Wang asks what challenge that is, figuring it might be a good chance for profit. Gripping the book tightly, the man explains this is the most talked about topic among hunters right now. He says it's the hardest dungeon for rookies, where you have to survive against zombies for 3 days. The man warns about the huge defeat rate but states that the winners get rewards for a lifetime. Weighing the heavy risk and the high returns, the young man rests his hand on his chin and asks for the portal's location. Scared, the large man warns that a level 2 rookie attempting a level 5 dungeon is total madness. Even after hearing the warnings of extreme danger, a small confident smile appears on the boy's face. The young man argues that you only know if you try, and deduces that the local items must be of an incredible tier. After that, the scene shifts to the middle of the street, where a huge blue portal glows, attracting several hunters. Walking very steadily, the main character approaches the grand magic entrance along with other warriors. Several hunters notice the boy's arrival, commenting in amazement about the rookie warrior's bravery. The system displays a red extreme danger alert, warning about the high level of the new perilous challenge. Looking at the large crowd, Wong flashes an excited smile and decides to enter the dungeon. After stepping through the portal, the boy appears on top of a building, observing the new city completely in ruins. The panel recommends that he find the other group members to increase his chances of survival. Equipping new protection, the young man ignores the warning, preferring to act alone so as not to be slowed down by anyone. Wong jumps off the building easily, disregarding the system's orders because his sole focus is getting strong. The young man lands smoothly on the empty street and spots a convenience store to stock up on supplies. Entering the large abandoned market, the warrior walks through the aisles looking for useful items. He finds bandages and drinks, breaking into a big smile when he spots his favorite brand of noodles. Suddenly, the muscular man he met earlier comes running through the glass door, shattering everything. The main character is badly startled by the sudden intrusion and stares at the brute, completely confused. The man runs frantically through the store's aisles, fleeing from an entire horde of furious zombies. Crying out of pure relief, the big guy recognizes the young man and thanks the heavens for finding him there. Wasting no time, Wong equips his new special rank sword, which appears glowing in an intense blue light. The boy draws the blade with a lot of force, releasing powerful cutting energy into the room. With a very serious look, the main character faces the monsters and comments that trouble always finds him. Wong gets into a combat stance and orders the brute to give him cover against the undead. Dashing forward with great speed, the young man leaps toward the horde, wielding his magic blade. With a single devastating strike, the warrior defeats several zombies at once using his sword's blue trail. Evaluating the tense situation, the boy realizes the enemies keep showing up even after he defeated several of them. Watching the undead running down the hall, he notices the dangerous creatures are attracted by the fallen bodies on the floor. Bothered by the noisy environment, the young man looks over his shoulder as he hears a very piercing sound. Outside the abandoned store, a huge horde walks slowly, threatening to overrun the whole small space. In the middle of the large, creepy group, a monster with a huge hole in its chest emits intense circular sound waves. With a completely analytical look, the boy deduces that the weird enemy is using the sound to attract the others. The warrior assesses that the horde is pretty slow, but realizes the new creatures have already blocked his only escape route. Focusing his full attention on the real danger, the boy decides he needs to eliminate the nosy commander first. Looking at the shooter beside him, the main character asks him to keep firing and attract the monsters as bait. Trembling with sheer dread at the absurd plan, the ally falls into despair and replies that he can't do that. Projecting a lot of confidence through his dark gaze, the young man tells his partner to try and asks for just 5 seconds. Seeing the boy's huge courage with the sword in hand, the big man gives in to the strong request and agrees to execute the plan. At that moment, the system panel displays the main character's magic data, showing his new body stats. Readying his old fast dash stance, the warrior orders the system to add 1 point to his speed. The magic attribute screen obeys the command right away, and the boy's agility score goes up immediately. Gaining a massive boost in his feet, the swordsman jumps at high speed toward the large enemy pack. While the warrior flies through the ruined aisle, the ally fires powerful shots to draw the deadly horde's attention. Taking advantage of the distraction caused by the loud gunfire, the young man cuts down several monsters at once with the blue edge. With a very high and decisive leap, the boy aims the tip of his sword straight at the noisy commander target. The long glowing trail pieces the creature's dried skin and tears the monster in half with a single clean strike. Pleased with the beautiful result of his fast cut, a lovely smile of great confidence appears on the boy's face. After the leader's tragic fall, the system triggers a red alert and warns that the entire local horde has gone mad with rage. Upon noticing the fury of the dangerous dead creatures, the warrior gulps and understands the real danger level of his plan. Driven by intense anger, one of the monsters lunges without warning and tries to strike the adventurer's body with its claws. Having great physical battle reflexes, the young man blocks the huge heavy impact using only his strong blade. Surrounded by tougher enemies, the swordsman fears his current strength might not be enough to win the fight. Despite the increase in the enemy's defense, the boy is comforted to see that the group stopped attracting new reinforcements on the street. Filled with strong hope, the boy pulls his arm back, determined to carve his long path to the top. Unleashing a booming shout of pure bravery, the warrior delivers more attacks against the dense zombie wave. Sweating from sheer exhaustion, the hunter reaches his physical limit and notices that the huge raging horde keeps fighting. Walking slowly toward the exit, the exhausted hero hears the shooter begging for his grand, divine help. Hidden by the shadows of the closed area, the adventurer reflects on the cruel survival rules for the weak. Suffering many scratches and heavy attacks, the big guy takes a beating and decides to trust his life to his young partner. Showing no pity for the deeply cornered victim, a lethal monster squeezes the man's neck, ready to tear into him. Seeing the huge disadvantage of the tough battle, the main character grumbles about the immense burden and work of protecting allies. Understanding the strong faith placed upon him for the first time, the boy decides to embrace his noble and dangerous mission. Right after, a thick glowing golden aura coats the warrior, ready to defend his new supreme title. Ignoring the strong imposing light in the area, 3 beings from the heavy dark horde try to ambush the relentless hero. Far from backing down in the face of the looming threat, the hunter keeps his calm stance and faces his terrible destiny head-on. With his red eyes taken over by wild power, he slashes the beastly creatures and severs an enemy's arm right then and there. Seeing his beloved ally alive and fighting, the shooter flashes a wide smile, his sweaty face full of sincere joy. At the same time, the hero's hand grabs the injured ally's arm and speaks in an obvious tone that leaves the shooter quite confused. Taking back the front of the difficult, heavy combat, the fast youth unleashes a beautiful circular attack and knocks the lethal beast far away. Startled by the danger flying right before his confused eyes, the big guy cries in terrible dread of his own demise. Panting heavily from the grand strike, the warrior murmurs that heavy swing drained a lot of his current strength. Focused on escaping the unbreakable siege, the hunter's fast legs emit intense green lights, activating the grand escape. Pulling all his momentum from the dark floor, the adventurer performs incredible backflips and shakes off the bizarre group all at once. Exiting the large abandoned store heading outdoors, the noble partners heroically break through the heavy invasion. Satisfied with all the intense effort and the strength shown, the smiling hero declares himself ready for new trials. The long-forgotten dark journey continues with the good allies marching calmly through the dense streets of an apocalypse. Walking next to the young hero, the ally confesses he was too scared to go inside the place. The conversation is cut short when the boy hears a cry for help coming from the top of the building. At that exact moment, a huge, shadowy, monstrous figure leaps from the roof down to the ground. The warrior spots a badly injured hunter on the pavement, begging for urgent help. Giving no chance to escape, the giant beast crushes the injured man with a heavy stomp on the ground. Shocked by the intense scene, the main character breaks a cold sweat, seeing the size of the monster in front of him. The terrible giant zombie swings its heavy arm, and the swordsman steps back with his weapon in hand. Seeing the creature walk away right after, the boy concludes that they are not the main target. The young warrior observes the fallen hunter's body on the ground, trying to understand the whole situation. After that, the scene moves to a safe zone where the group of survivors gathers in the shelter. A shooter wearing glasses walks up and comments on the luck of the two newly arrived warriors. The boy stares at the stranger in silence while his big partner watches somewhat suspiciously. The shooter explains that the real threat around there is the giant monster, and the young man asks why the beast ignores them. Keeping a serious tone, the man reports that the dreaded zombie king only hunts humans at dawn and at dusk. While the hunter continues his explanations, the main character analyzes his screen of items and healing potions. The story now focuses on the brightly lit inside of the large shelter, where the shooters use the magic panels. The virtual store system displays the high exchange prices, where bottled water costs a lot. Looking at the outrageous prices, the warrior thinks about why water is the most valuable item in the place. Placing his hand under an old faucet, the young man concludes that clean water must be a rarity there. An old man hurries over to the sink and tells the young man not to touch the tap water. The older gentleman warns that the local water cannot be drank and tells the boy to look in another building. Taking a close look at the old sink, the main character notices some very strange dirt near the drain. He spots dark roots coming out of the dirty pipe, while the old hunter starts sweating nervously. Reflecting on the mystery, the boy puts the pieces together and checks the list of hunters with the most points. The shelter's huge blue panel displays the full trade chart and the podium of the richest hunters. Sitting in the waiting room, the men complain about having to spend their hard-earned points on bandages and food. The main character chimes into the conversation, announcing he will trade his points for 10 bottles of mineral water. The survivor group laughs at the boy and calls him crazy for spending his coins right at the start of the challenge. Annoyed by the mockery, the big man defends the hero, claiming he witnessed all his incredible strength. The shooter's leader gives a smile and tells the swordsman he has to stand guard during the night. Surprised by the order, the young man argues they were already safe inside that closed shelter. The leader warns that the number of zombies increases at night, and they usually knock down the doors of the place. Commanding the group, the man with glasses gives a confident smile and says they need a strong guard to hold out. Keeping his calm, the hero accepts the dangerous job while the shooter tells him to try not to lose his life. During the night, the outside of the shelter is swarming with hungry zombies wandering the streets. Meanwhile, the strong main character finishes his shift alone in a room full of defeated creatures. Walking calmly through the lobby, the boy tells the shooter he will go out looking for more drinking water. The leader laughs at the situation and reveals that the zombie king actually always hunts the player with the most accumulated points. Outraged by the reveal, the big ally realizes the terrible trap set by the fake group. The young hero analyzes the entire fraud, realizing they split up the tasks to avoid getting first place. He deduces he was forced to clear the entrance just to stack up points, becoming the perfect target for the great beast. Sporting a dangerous look, the warrior decides to show the cheaters that things are going to slip out of their control. Later on, the magic screen reports a skill level up while the young man rests sitting on the floor. Just then, a long and dreadful roar echoes throughout the ruined city during the cold night. The cowards fall into total despair upon recognizing the zombie king's terrifying voice heading their way. The chaos escalates when one of the shooters in the room gets infected and turns into a violent monster. The hunters stare at the ceiling with dread in their eyes as a gigantic explosion destroys the room's wall. Flying over the rubble, the colossal beast invades the shelter, baring its sharp teeth. Giving a nervous laugh, the fake leader thanks the hero for serving as bait for certain doom. But the grand monster ignores the hero completely and ruthlessly crushes the leader's partner. Watching his ally get devoured right in front of him, the leader trembles with dread, not understanding the beast's true target. The main character smirks, remembering he had run into the monster earlier when he had even more points. Holding the dark branches tightly, the young swordsman reveals that the gang of shooters is very mistaken. He squeezes the strange plant in his hand and explains that the target has nothing to do with the score. With a great confident aura, the warrior states that the zombie king hunts anyone who drank the infected water. The huge dark beast rises up behind the boy while he points out everyone in the group's big mistake. The young man smiles vindictively, looking at the scared faces of the men who tried to betray his trust. He comments that the players worked themselves to the bone gathering coins just to buy clean water from the store. The boy notes that the hunters secretly use the tap water when their bottles run out, turning into targets for the beast. Pointing his blade at the dark branches, the hero faces the root of the mystery, ready to slice through its origin. With a swing of his sword, Wang Zhifan steps forward, saying he will rip out all those dark branches. Upon the slash, the huge zombie king lets out a furious roar and turns toward the swordsman. The roots wrapped around the monster are severed, and the creature completely breaks free in a rage. Seeing the creature lose control, the other players scream in panic for everyone to run out of there. But the main character steps in front of them and orders them to stay away from the water because he will lure the monster. Hearing the challenge, the creature charges with all its might at the young swordsman. Zhifan thinks it was good to lure him into a narrow hallway, since that limits the monster's movements. Nimbly, the young man dodges a powerful attack that blows a crater in the hallway floor. He then uses his sword to defend himself from the monster's sharp claws trying to pierce him. The creature strikes with a flurry of rapid punches, but the boy manages to dodge every single one. Making use of the space, the main character slides across the floor to distance himself and set up his next move. He realizes the monster's raw power is insane and that he can't win using just brute strength. Because of that, the young man jumps backward and decides he needs to lure it to an even tighter spot. He keeps backing up, thinking he only needs to bait the monster a little longer for his plan to work. The zombie king then strikes with a fierce punch, but Zhifan manages to block the heavy blow with some trouble. Even as he gets pushed back, the boy smiles and thinks this is exactly the kind of situation where a warrior shines. With a confident smile on his face, the main character readies his attack while telling the creature to meet its end. The zombie king glares at him with glowing red eyes, grinding its teeth in pure rage. But at the moment of the strike, the creature surprises the young man by grabbing the sword's blade with its hand. The boy is left in shock and wonders how the monster managed to predict his attack so accurately. Suddenly, a red aura explodes from the monster, throwing the main character far away with immense force. Riding the momentum, he throws himself inside a room and decides to hide for a moment. He questions why the creature that had followed him all the way there suddenly seemed to lose sight of him. The boy stands silently in the middle of the storage room, closely watching the situation outside. Walking slowly around the place, he tries to understand how the monster can track him down so easily. But to his surprise, the zombie king appears right in front of him, as if it knew exactly where he was. The boy doesn't understand how he was found again, since he was completely out of the creature's field of vision. In that instant, he notices a regular zombie dropping from an upper floor right behind where he was standing. The main character then dashes forward at high speed, ready to handle the threats surrounding him. Looking at the zombie king, the young man finally understands and realizes that creature's eyesight is terrible. He figures out that the other zombies are telling it where he is, acting as the zombie king's eyes. Knowing this, the main character decides he will defeat the eyes first, meaning the regular zombies. With a single swing of his glowing sword, the young man defeats several zombies that were in the hallway. Without its eyes to guide it, the zombie king stands still, seemingly unsure of what to do next. The young man smiles and confirms his theory, because without zombies around, the monster finally lost track of him. Right after, the scene shifts to the outside of the building, showing that the sun is starting to set. Back inside, a power generator throws sparks, and the main character wonders the reason behind that. Meanwhile, the other players run desperately down a hallway flooded with the contaminated water. One of the men in the group, the one with glasses, falls down and sits in the dirty water, looking very weak. With his body transforming, he finally understands what is happening, and everything starts making sense. Zhifan realizes the dungeon had no original zombies, and that they are born from the building's tainted water. He remembers that the expensive bottled water forces players to use the dirty water, turning them into zombies. The main character then asks Izumu if the building's power is still on, and the young man confirms it is. With a determined look, Zhifan says they have a chance, and that they can now defeat the zombie king. He looks at an elevator sign and thinks that if the power works, the elevators must be working too. Realizing there's a way to win, the main character runs toward his companions with a plan. He knows the king follows the zombies and plans to lure all of them into the elevator shaft. One player grabs him, accusing him of running away and putting everyone in danger by angering the monster. Zhifan stares him down and warns that if they don't want to fall, they should do what he says and get out of the dirty water. Then, the young man sprints down a hallway, pulling away from the others as the monster's shadow approaches. The young man firmly presses an elevator button, setting his victory plan into motion. With that, the gigantic zombie king appears in front of him, ready for the final clash. Wang Zhifen glares at it with a serious look while the creature's dark claws close in on him. The monster attacks the elevator doors, leaving deep claw marks in the metal. Unfazed, the main character steps into the elevator cabin and prepares for the next phase. He then jumps through a hole he made in the elevator floor, dropping into the dark shaft. Looking up with determination, the young man thinks that this is where they will turn the game around. The boy stands on top of the elevator car and waits for the zombie king, who is a few floors down. The creature takes the bait and starts climbing the elevator shaft to reach the main character. Zhifen plans to hide in the gap between the car and the wall for a game of hide and seek. He shifts to the side and holds onto the elevator shaft wall, waiting for the right moment. While hanging on, he thinks he needs to climb fast or the monster will finally catch him. He keeps climbing the wall, wondering whether he should hide in the front or the back. With a faint smile, the boy notices something and gets a new idea to defeat the creature. He spots that the cabin is hanging by worn-out cables barely holding on, meaning it can be knocked off balance. The young man decides he'll throw a rock to lure the monster on top of the unstable cabin. The zombie king is enraged by the taunt and gets ready to leap toward the noise. The creature jumps and lands heavily on a platform near where the boy is. Zhifen then pulls out a strange tool with hooks, looking like a climbing claw. The monster finally jumps on top of the elevator car, exactly as the young man planned. The main character leaps toward the creature, telling it to try that out as a test. He attacks the zombie king with his grappling hook weapon, and the creature lets out a roar of pain. The beast grabs the grappling tool's cable, trying to stop the swordsman's attack. The monster pulls the cord hard, dragging the boy closer and winding up a counterattack. The creature tries to land a mighty punch, but the young man manages to dodge at the very last second. Zhifen preps a final strike, saying that this time he will finish off the monster for good. With his sword glowing, the main character shouts that the fight is over and unleashes his most powerful blow. A massive blue beam of light travels down the elevator shaft, cutting through everything in its path. The zombie king's body is split completely in half by the protagonist's mighty attack. With the enemy defeated, Wang Zhifen confidently declares that he won the battle. His companions celebrate, amazed that he took down the monster all on his own. But the boy finds it weird that he didn't receive any mission completion notification. He looks up the dark elevator shaft, feeling that something is still wrong. Suddenly, a zombie is torn apart by red tentacles shooting out of the contaminated water. Zhifen watches the scene closely, realizing what that means for the mission. The other players panic, seeing that the zombies keep moving even without their king. Another zombie emerges from the murky water, its red eyes glowing and ready to attack. The main character finally understands that eliminating the zombie king wasn't the dungeon's true goal. He connects all the dots, realizing that the water, the roots, and the zombies are all tied together. The real cause of the zombie outbreak is the source of the tainted water flooding the place. He narrates that he followed the plumbing and mapped the route to an underground chamber. The young warrior arrives at a huge underground cave covered in a mass of red veins. He covers his nose, confirming his suspicions about the origin of the building's contamination. Staring at the center of the chamber, he finds the core of that mass and says he found it. The main character points to the core, certain that if he defeats that, he can clear the dungeon. The camera pulls back, revealing that the core is a gigantic creature covered in dozens of eyes. A giant red monster head emerges from the massive veins and attacks the main character. He realizes the tentacles are forcing him closer to the core, limiting his escape. Having no choice, the boy charges forward with his sword drawn, running along a path of veins. He understands the tentacles are trying to bind his movements, while an attack forms up. A red tentacle tightly wraps around the main character's leg, pinning him in place. Right after, several zombies and tentacles grab him, completely immobilizing his movements. With a worried look, the young man notices the situation is getting more and more dangerous. He uses his sword to shake off the creatures and cut the tentacles holding him. The boy thinks that if he keeps getting cornered like that, he will definitely be defeated. Looking at a breaker panel, he decides he needs to take the initiative to escape. He spots the electrical panel and is surprised to see there is still power in that underground place. The young man understands the creature uses the dirty water and roots as if they were its blood vessels. With a confident smile, he decides he will use those blood vessels to defeat the monster. He runs toward the electrical panel, yelling for the bizarre creature to follow him. The creature lashes at him with its red tentacles, but Wang Zhifen says he got him. The main character then absorbs all the electrical energy from the panel, covering his body in lightning. The energy travels through the tentacles and the water, going straight to the monster's core. With a shout, the young man releases the entire electrical charge at once, ready to wrap up the fight. A wave of blue lightning surges through the massive creature's entire vein system. All the zombies and even the monster's core get electrocuted with devastating force. After the shock, the creature's golden core finally reveals itself amid the veins. Sporting a victorious smile, the main character gets ready to land the finishing blow. He dashes forward with his sword drawn, shouting for the creature to fall once and for all. Leaping into the air, the young man plunges his glowing sword straight into the monster's exposed core. A massive blast of blue energy rises from the underground and shoots through all the building's floors. The monster's core crumbles into light particles, signaling the enemy's total defeat. A system notification congratulates him for clearing the disaster and tells him to collect his rewards. With the mission complete, a huge treasure chest with an eye and skulls appears in front of him. Jifan turns to his companions and tells them to grab their rewards first. The man in the vest thanks him, saying they only survived because of him, while Jifan hides a secret. The system warns that after taking the reward, they must leave the area immediately. The other young man approaches the chest, looking excited to see what he will get. But he gets nervous seeing Jifan's shadow behind him with an intimidating glare. Afraid, the young man picks a small skull-shaped item, saying something simple suits him better. Jifan smiles and comments on their modesty, deciding to take the best reward for himself. The reward system activates, offering 3 items and 1 special level 5 reward. Several item cards pop out of the chest, including a holy weapon, a star staff, and a winged bow. He picks the holy weapon, and the system informs him he can still choose 2 more items. The system offers the option to reroll the other 2 items, and he promptly accepts the exchange. He thinks none of the items are fit for a warrior, but the holy weapon already pays off his debt. The boy hopes the hidden rewards aren't useless and wishes for skills similar to the monsters. A new system notification pops up on the screen, reporting that a new skill was acquired. The first skill he receives is shared vision, exactly like the zombie kings. Next, he gets the behavioral control skill identical to the Veen monsters. The main character is stunned to see he got exactly the skills he wanted. He finds it odd since rewards are fixed, but it seems like someone heard his thoughts. The young man realizes the system turned the items into the perfect skills for him. Suspicious, he looks around and wonders if someone has been watching him the whole time. His eyes lock onto something suspicious at the back of the room where the treasure chest was. He walks toward a damaged container where the Veen monster had spawned from. A weird symbol is engraved on the container's side, catching the main character's attention. He reflects that Miss Monster shouldn't be in dungeons, concluding it was placed there. Jifan connects the dots and wonders if someone is manipulating the monsters and even the rewards. He stares at the symbol and questions if even the mist covering the world was created by humans. With a determined look, Soshi states that he now has a clue and will bring the truth to light. He believes there are people behind the mist, and he has finally found a path to the truth. The system congratulates him for clearing the dungeon, displaying his rewards and the experience gained. His status screen shows he is Hozaki Soshi, a level 4 warrior with new skills. With his hands in his pockets, the young man is surprised he jumped 2 levels at once with the mission. He puts the holy weapon up for auction and realizes the rare item will bring in more than he imagined. In a matter of seconds, the main character confirms the item's sale with a single tap on the screen. He reflects that he's now level 4, paid off his debt, and even gained a trump card for the future. After that, the young man walks toward the trading center to wrap up the item's sale. He hands the weapon to the buyer, and the transaction is finalized, greatly increasing his coin balance. The buyer, a well-dressed man, remarks that he's the low-level warrior who sold the weapon. Soshi notices the man isn't there just for business and asks if he came to investigate him. The man in the suit answers that that weapon isn't the kind of thing someone like him would get. With a cold stare, the main character simply replies that this isn't his problem and ends the subject. Following the trade, the young man turns around and starts walking down the stairs to leave the meeting spot. His coin balance drops a lot, but he thinks at least he managed to pay off his entire debt. While walking down an alley, he sees in the reflection that the buyer's men are tailing him. He confirms his suspicions and realizes that, as he figured, the men in suits are watching him. From afar, one of the men in suits tells the other not to lose sight of him while they watch the boy. But when they turn the corner to follow him, they are shocked to see the young man simply vanished. Suddenly, Soshi appears behind them and asks if they seriously sent amateurs to tail him. He concludes that being a low-level warrior, selling expensive items makes him stand out too much. Then, he looks at a large recruitment billboard and finds the solution to his problem. He plans to sign a contract with the agency so no one will suspect the origin of his items. With his new plan in mind, the boy enters the Mist Management Agency lobby. At the counter, he asks about the recruitment process, and the receptionist requests his form. The woman reads the form and is surprised to see that Hozaki Soshi is only a level 4 warrior. Other hunters mock him, saying if a low level was enough, the agency wouldn't be short on people. A man with glasses tells everyone to shut up while the receptionist reports about the level 4 warrior. The man says there is no time for dead weight, and they already have enough people since the mist is scarce. The young man smiles and warns that that kind of complacent thinking is still going to get them hurt in the future. With absolute confidence, the main character informs them that a mist outbreak will hit the square that very day. The leader calls him a kid and tells him to stop talking nonsense, but Soshi understands his distrust. He tells him to call him when the alarm goes off and that he expects a better contract rate when it happens. Annoyed, the man with glasses calls him a shatty brat and watches him leave the place. Meanwhile, the young man thinks about how he analyzed recent outbreak data after getting suspicious about the mist. He noticed that small outbreaks happen in public places and the big ones near known dungeons. Checking the map, he saw that the outbreak zones in the square were moving toward the center. After calculating the pattern and intervals, he concluded the next outbreak would be there that day. Back at the agency, the emergency alarm blares, warning of mist detected near the square. The agency leader is shocked and irritated to realize the young man's warning was right. Sporting a slight smile, the agency leader seems to have an idea of what to do next. In the square, a massive cloud of dark mist descends from the sky, making everyone run in panic. Seeing his prediction come true, the young man stands up and says it's time to get his contract.